And joining us now, crossed enemy lines, what this is. We have Chase Younts. He is the host of the Cut to the Chase podcast, and he's also a friend of ours from the Fans First Sports Network, where you can also hear the call. Chase, thank you so much for joining the call today.
Brandon, Josh, thanks for having me in. Excited to talk about our Thursday night football matchup and everything. I know it's across enemy lines, but hey, we're doing the same thing, man, and just hoping for some good football.
Absolutely.
Right.
Glad to have you. Can't wait to chat about this. One's a huge game for both. AFC North bout, man. Let's go.
That's right. It's a game day chat we got going on today. So Bengals are currently 5-4, and the Bengals offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan, actually said that it feels like a playoff game in November. So Chase, what are Bengal fans feeling right now? Is it the same kind of sentiment?
Yes, he's speaking everything into existence right there. It is a playoff game in November. I'll go back to the last couple of seasons, specifically in week 11. When we played the Las Vegas Raiders week 11 of 2021, we were 5-4 going into that game. We had to go in there and try to claw away through victory. I remember in the fourth quarter, it was like 16-13, and the Bengals just ultimately pulled away in that one. Obviously, different circumstances now, but we've known 5-4 the last 3 years. And then last year we played the Pittsburgh Steelers at 5-4, an upstart Pittsburgh Steelers team that got us in week 1 of 2022. And we had to go into their house and we had to, claw our way to victory. It definitely was not easy, but they had to find a way to win. And, this year it's different circumstances. Every single season is different, but 5-4, you got to go into a divisional opponent's house. It's a very tough house to go into, especially at night, to say the least. But, we've been there before, but there are some different things that are coming right now. But it definitely is a playoff game. It feels like a playoff game for us. It's going to be in a playoff type atmosphere. And those guys, the Bengals, they got to be ready. They got to be ready going into this one and know that our backs are against the wall. And there's no other option at this point. There's no margin for error starting 1-3 and putting yourself in that type of hole. You have to go out there and get a W on Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, you both of our teams respectively have 4-game winning streaks this year already, right? Mm-hmm. But they both got snapped this past weekend. Obviously, disappointing loss on you guys, and for us too, right? So we're both coming into this matchup, with a little bit of edge to it, right? You're coming off these losses. They both let it get away. And speaking of the game plan, I want to dive right into the game plan. So obviously, the Bengals boast some of their best run defense, but in recent weeks, right? But Sunday, you gave up 150 to Devin Singletary, which is a problem. Now the Ravens obviously boast a good running game, right? They got Angry Runs winner Gus Edwards, rookie Keith Mitchell is coming into his own. You got Justice Hill, and you know what Lamar can do on the ground. What do you think the Bengals' game plan is, Chase? The stop the Ravens' run attack and that rush first offense.
Well, Josh, it says in your name, Josh is sick and tired of blown leads. I'm sick and tired of giving up things in the run game. It's incredible. I mean,
right.
It's running the ball and stopping the run is really, a main staple in the National Football League and what can decide games. Everything else comes after that if you don't win the line of scrimmage. If you lose the line of scrimmage, more than likely you're going to lose the football game. And like you said, a couple of keys, I'm not going to say we have to run for 200 yards on you guys because you guys have a great run defense. I know the Cleveland Browns came in there and did their thing. They're also a great run offense. So, strength against strength. But the Bengals have to have some type of formidable rushing attack. Joe Mixon has to play efficient football in that regard. They got to open up the offense and let Burrow work. We've wasted too much time in some games falling behind and everything. And there's, then it's like, oh, we're forcing Burrow to go out there and just let him play free. Do that from the start. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense in that regard. Winning the early down is big. The differences in starting off at 2nd and 8 and 2nd and 4 are drastically different. That's something you guys do a really good job, especially against us, to say the least, especially in week 2, where you guys were getting 6-7 yards a pop on first down, especially running the football. And it just creates, there's so much more you can do setting it up on third down. Third down offense, you want to get in that 3rd and 4 to 3rd and 6 range. Third down defense, You want to keep the Ravens out of that range because they've been pretty good because they have a lot, Lamar Jackson, they have some receivers that can get open and boasting that strong run game. And it all comes back to limiting the ground game as much as possible because you guys, if you're able to run the football 30 plus times, more than likely you're going to get 100 yards because you guys have, great running backs and a pretty good run blocking offensive line. And it goes back to winning the line of scrimmage and winning your matchups is a big thing for the Cincinnati Bengals and unleashing Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and letting them do their thing and, try to be special in this ball game.
Now, the Bengals have two key players that missed the game up against the Texans. It was Sam Hubbard and T. Higgins. Now, Trey Hendrickson also was hurt late in that game on Sunday, and given that it is a short week, there's a chance that he doesn't play as well. So what will the Bengals do if those players aren't ready to go for Thursday night?
Well, they're going to have to go with depth. Defensively, Hubbard has been a great run stopper. He's been known as that in the stripes ever since he's been a Bengal. He's picked up his pass rush ability this year as well, more resulting in numbers and sacks. But it's going to have to go to Miles Murphy, the rookie, who has honestly been on milk cartons around Cincinnati, and he's got to get off of them. I know it's his first 9 games of his career, but he's going to have to step up and do a lot more than what we ask from him. There's going to be him. There's going to have to be Joseph Osai, who, again, a lot of people know him as costly in the AFC Championship game. There's Bengals fans that know him as, key third down pressures, key third down sacks. There's also Bengals fans that know him as got dominated in the run game this past week against Houston. So those are guys that may not have great repertoires at the moment who need to quickly erase that on a short week and try to play some of their best sound football and most disciplined football of all against a tough Ravens team. And then T. Higgins, the thing about this is T. Higgins is such a dynamic player just to have on the field. In the first game against you guys, 8 receptions, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was really the only player that got it going against the Baltimore Ravens. And not having on the field will hurt. But again, we have other guys that can step up, like Trenton Irwin, who caught a 32-yard touchdown. I think it's 35-yard touchdown to open the game up. It was against cover 2. It was a beautiful ball from Burrow and a hole shot. But it was just, the more guys have to step up and win their one-on-one matchups at receiver. And then the 2 guys mentioned, like Murphy, Osai, Cam Sample, they're just going to have to lock in and play really disciplined, high-level football. And who knows, it might be too much to ask, but we're obviously going to have to see when we step in between the lines on Thursday night.
Absolutely, man. We're definitely going to see. And something I'm excited to see is the X's and O's in the chess match of these players and going at it. As we know, Geno Stone, no secret, right? Leads the league in 6 interceptions this year. He should have had a 7th or maybe even 8th in the last 2 games. And but hey, it's all good. They come and go. But look, he's out back there in safety. We know what the secondary brings. They did stop Jamar Chase in the first one you alluded to, and T. Higgins kind of went off. But now they might not have Higgins deployed, as we know. So what do you think that Jamar Chase and the Bengals offense have to do to win those matchups? And obviously with the receiving corps being a little depleted in the secondary.
Move him around. They have to move Jamar Chase around in motion. They have to put him in the slot, put him on the outside, try to isolate him up on some matchups and everything. And if, we already know Jamar is going to end up probably being doubled in that regard. And then that's going to open up one-on-one matchups for guys like Trenton Irwin. It's going to open up some one-on-one matchups for Tyler Boyd, who really needs to forget what happened last game and step up. It's going to be one of those, just a matchup game between, especially, I think we already know the pass rush and the offensive line is a big thing. Winning the line of scrimmages. But when you're talking about the outside, like Jamar Chase, when we needed him most against the Arizona Cardinals, he had 15 for 192 and 3 touchdowns. We're not playing the Arizona Cardinals. We're playing a feistier Birds team that is you guys. We just had to find a way to get him the football. When Jamar Chase has the football in his hands, he is arguably one of the most dangerous players in the National Football League. And Brian Callahan, Zach Taylor, quarterback coach Dan Pitcher, they have to find ways to scheme it up. And Joe Burrow, he's going to have to find some time and some some creativity and escapability to try to extend some plays and do everything. So it's gonna come down to a lot of creativeness and playmaking on that end to get Ja'Marr Chase the football and just move him around.
Now, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, they compared a lot, and unfortunately, they're both getting compared to having an issue with turnovers. I know Baltimore is very concerned about how many turnovers and how many fumbles Lamar Jackson has. Is their fan base as concerned about the Joe Burrow turnovers as Baltimore is with Lamar Jackson?
I don't think we're necessarily concerned about Burrow's turnovers, especially in the two, like on Sunday. I'll say this, okay? The first interception he threw, it was an intended pass to tight end Drew Sample. One, I don't know why he's intending that pass to Drew Sample, not maybe the first person you would target that ball to, but I think more Bengals fans could live with that one. The second one, it was the pass to he was trying to throw it to Tyler Boyd, and it was in like triple coverage to Shaquille Griffin. In this regard, Joe Burrow they were down by 10 points. We were not going to get back in this game if it wasn't for Joe Burrow getting down the field and doing his thing. He was in create mode, and he threw two really bad interceptions, to say the least. And I don't think he does that if we're closer in a game. I think more doubting. He's just trying to create more plays. It was concerning on Sunday seeing it was back-to-back drives and whatnot, but I think overall, I don't think Joe Burrow and his turnovers has been really concerning, because before that game, going into it, he had one of the lowest turnover-worthy throws, like percentage-wise turnover-worthy throws in the National Football League. It was somewhere around like 1.7%. It was really, really low. It just happened to be in that circumstance. You're put in a bad situation. You got to go out and create. And Joe Burrow created some really good plays, and he also created some really bad plays that will sit in the minds of Bengals fans for a while. And it's a give and take with a star player like him, and it's a give and take with a star player like Lamar Jackson on your side.
Absolutely, it is a give and take, but it just seems like they always happen in the inopportune times. Like, if you're up big and there's something that happens, right? It's like, okay, or what happened with the Seahawks game, alluding to that with the Ravens blowout victory there. It was like Lamar fumbled, but then the defense went to work. You bailed him out with a 3-and-out, didn't really hurt him. So it's like, it's all about context. Yeah, you don't want the ball to be turned over, but hey, if you can minimize the damage that comes after that, and I think what I saw, one of the highlights, Burrow's, one of his interceptions was in the red zone, in the end zone. So it was kind of like, it takes points away from you guys, and it's detrimental when you lose by a slim margin like that. But really want to talk up this matchup. I love the primetime games. On about you, Chase. I live for them. I always joke and say I wish every game was a primetime game. I just love it as a fan. I just love them. I don't know why. But the Bengals don't seem to like some road games when it comes to these night games. So now you guys had one a Monday nighter earlier this year. I think it was a victory for you guys. This is the only Ravens primetime game at home this year. They are featured in 4 or 5 this year, but this one's the only one home game that we get to. I'm excited to go. But the Bengals, they're not so excited for these road games. In these road night games, they're in the last 25 years. I don't know if you noticed, Chase, they're 1-23. Their last win at night came in Philly in 2012. So it's been a long time, man, 12 years. So they're currently on a 13-game road night game losing streak. So that's crazy in itself. Just wow. So what do you think goes into that, and why having the night road games for this team over the last 2.5 decades? Why haven't they worked out?
For context about that Philadelphia game, I was in 4th grade at the time. The Bengals ended up winning that very critical road night game, and I skipped school the next day. So,
all right. So you were in 4th grade. Go. Well, that's the end of the show. You made us feel old. See you later. All right.
Wow.
Did not intend on doing any of that. Did not intend on doing any of that. Okay.
That's awesome.
Man, awesome. I actually had that stat written down.
You did?
I eased the pain a little bit. Not since 2000, but 06. Same thing. 1-20 in that time frame. It's
okay.
It's ridiculous. And you guys
I went a little farther back.
The same difference. Still one win. And just I don't understand exactly what the issue is with that. When you're talking about primetime games as of now, the Bengals actually have the longest active home primetime winning streak in the National Football League with 6 in a row, if counting the playoffs or whatever. But the thing is, like, I don't know how to wrap my mind around it in a sense, because the Bengals in those games in the past, a lot of them were Andy Dalton led games, and you guys know a thing or two about Andy Dalton.
I remember that guy.
Yeah, you remember that guy. We
And
definitely
Carson
remember
Palmer.
that guy, and Carson Palmer too. It just puzzles me a bit. Burrow is 0-4 in road night games in his career, I believe. He lost one in 2020 against the Cleveland Browns, 35-30 his rookie year. 2022 last year against you guys, he lost. The Sunday Night Football game, Justin Tucker. I mean, you don't want to give him a chance in that regard. And then the two other games that were considered prime time, the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game last year. And they've all been really close games. It's just there's been times of the game where one unit just goes completely just deadline, just flatlines. And it's the offense, more particularly. It just doesn't. I'm trying to wrap my finger around it, but I just can't, and there's been some of those games where Burrow may throw an inopportune interception later on, especially in the AFC Championship game. He threw it in the fourth quarter. Didn't really result on much after that, but just there are some bonehead mistakes that happen. There are some blown coverages. There's just, a lot of weird stuff. I've seen so many Bengals night games, especially road night games, because we didn't play a home Sunday Night Football game, until the Bills game in over 11 years. In 2012 against the Steelers. Yeah, and that was the same year in fourth grade. I was at that game too, but that beyond the fact. But it's just I don't know what to pinpoint why we can't win a road night game or anything like that. But again, if I don't want to put, not putting too much pressure on Joe Burrow, because there's a lot of pressure already on the Bengals as a whole. Burrow did break the playoff streak, the playoff drought that we had for 31 years. Burrow did break the Sunday Night Football streak just a couple weeks ago. If he could somehow break the streak of road night game losses against you guys, that's a propeller for the rest of the season. But it will obviously be a very tall task against the Ravens and the crowd. Absolutely.
And what's ahead of us too, right, is the Ravens have an opportunity to sweep Bengals for the season series, especially coming off last year where it was, and from a football game standpoint, incredible wildcard game, but obviously how it ended for us, it was kind of like we wanted that revenge, and we got that going back to Cincinnati in early week 2. And it seems like eons ago, that week 2 game, a lot has changed since then. So I can't wait to get after it. It's going to be a great matchup as always it is. You got Joe Burrow leading the charge, got Lamar Jackson leading the charge for us. So it's going to be great. Can't wait.
Indeed it is.
All right. So Chase, before we get out of here, we want to give you the opportunity. You don't have to do it, but what is your prediction for this game?
Well, I'll say this. Normally I would go with the Bengals in this regard, where it's like, I'm normally not picked against my team because I don't think there's many teams in the National Football League that can beat the Cincinnati Bengals when they're playing at their best and when they're playing healthy. The fact of the matter is they're not healthy, and they're not necessarily playing at their best at the moment. I know it could be recency bias or whatever, but they're not healthy. They're not playing at their best. Their backs are against the wall. They're going to do it with more pieces and more people. But I don't know. I'm so on the fence with this game right now. The statistics show that the Bengals are probably not going to win this game with the night game stuff. But then again, if you count Joe Burrow out, sometimes you pay. So you know what? I'm going to make the very unpopular pick, and I'm going to go with Cincinnati Bengals narrowly. Just riding hope on Joe Burrow. That's really the only reason. I think the metrics say that the Ravens, are obviously favored. The Ravens have a lot, the run game and everything else, but I'm just going to sell the rest of my hope on Joe Burrow at the moment. I'm going to go with the Bengals very, very narrowly at this point.
Absolutely, man. I don't blame you, right? You got to put your money on 9. He's done it so far and done a bang up job so far, right? And they obviously paid him handsomely. So just like our quarterback. Also, got a question for you. So Brandon knows, of course, we always do it with guests. Me and Brandon have this little inside joke on the show. We obviously love our football foods, love our foods, and we talk some foods up for like tailgating and stuff.
All right.
But we have a war here with our wings, ranch or blue cheese. We have to ask you, Chase.
Yeah.
Are you team ranch or are you team blue cheese with your wings?
Never like blue cheese. I really didn't like ranch for a minute, but I'm team ranch. I'm team ranch now.
I keep winning. Undefeated.
I'm team ranch now, man. I just don't. It's just the mixture of blue and cheese just don't mix. They don't mix together, in my opinion. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, team ranch all the way.
It's like Bengals and night games, road games.
Well, that was a good one. I walked myself in that trap, but maybe the Bengals walk in the trap and take over. I don't know.
That's all right.
But yeah, team ranch in this regard, I would say.
Got it.
All right, Chase. So let everybody know where they can follow you on social media, where they can check out your podcast, where they can listen to you, where they can see you. Give everybody that information.
All right. So you guys can check me out on Instagram, personal tag Ciouts20, podcast page, Cut to the Chase podcast. If you guys want to look it up on YouTube, just type in the Cut to the Chase Sports Podcast, and you'll see the black and orange logo of pretty similar cutout of my face on there, and you guys can check that out. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, there's a lot of other places. Just type in, Cut to the Chase podcast, and you'll find us on there. And again, Josh and Brandon, I appreciate you guys having me on today. This is a really cool podcast you guys have going on.
Absolutely, Jason. Thank you so much for joining the show. We love talking the matchup with you, and best of luck. It's going to be another great installment in the AFC North, man. Can't wait.
Indeed it is. Best of luck to you guys as well.
Absolutely.